one thing about Ibrahim alayhi salam I'll highlight. Ibrahim alayhi salam followed the truth no matter who didn't like it. When he was a young man, his dad didn't like it. When he was a little bit older, his society didn't like it. And he stood by the truth no matter if everybody in the world hated him and were okay with throwing him into a fire. That's okay. I'm not letting go of what I believe. I stand by what I'm not afraid of my culture. I'm not afraid of my peers. I'm not afraid of people that are more powerful than me. I'm not afraid of my family. I will stand against anyone in my loyalty to Allah. What does the loyalty to Allah look like today? The loyalty to Allah, now that the Quran came, is loyalty to the book of Allah. Why? Allah Himself describes it. You've all heard the phrase, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا, right? Hold on to Allah's rope. You know what the synonym for that phrase is in the Quran? وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِاللَّهِ كَأَنَّهُمَا شَيْء. As though they're one thing. Hold on to Allah and hold on to the rope of Allah. What's the rope of Allah? The Quran is one thing. Like Ibrahim alayhi salam was loyal to his Rabb, we can only show loyalty to our Rabb by being loyal to what? The Quran. Now, we don't have idol worshippers to fight like Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ain't nobody throwing us in a fire. But let me give you a reality check. Allah says, لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل. By the way, right after the ayat of Ramadan, Allah says, don't consume each other's money using lies. Don't use a lawyer to win a case which you know you stole the money, but you got a good liar and got away with it. Don't do that. Don't be biased when it comes to distributing the inheritance so you can get more of the share and you know you don't deserve it. That's coming right after Ramadan. There are financial instructions. Right after. Allah says, eat whatever's on the earth, halalan tayyiba. There's such a long list. If you search right now, halal in this area, find halal, zabiha, extra halal, extra zabiha. We even recite all of Surah Al-Baqarah on our chicken before we slaughter it, etc., etc. Super halal. When we think of halal, what do we think of? How was it slaughtered? That's what we think of. Is anybody thinking about how'd you make the money? You bought really halal chicken with really haram money. Is that halal? You know what we've done? We have partial loyalty to the book of Allah. When it comes to money matters, partial loyalty to the book of Allah. When it comes to cultural matters, partial loyalty to the book of Allah. And then we say that we are the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When I mindfully read the Quran, and then I look at myself, I look at my family, I look at my culture, I say, whoa, something is off. Something is way off. What's going on here? What is going on here? Like Allah, for example, will talk about taking care of the orphans. For example, the only orphans we take care of are the ones that show up on a brochure. The only orphans we take care of is a crisis video somewhere far away on a car. Do you know the orphans in your neighborhood? You know the orphans in this masjid? You know when was the last time you spoke to the orphans in your own family? There are some orphans in your family. Some kids lost their parents. When was the last time you connected with them? Do you think when the Sahaba were reading the ayat about orphans, they were looking up who to save thousands of miles away first or in their immediate vicinity? When Allah is talking, and this was recent because it's in my mind because I was just teaching Surah Al-Talaq. In Surah Al-Talaq, Allah says, when you divorce a woman, do not kick her out of her house. For 3 months or 3 cycles, you cannot expel her from the house. The most populated part of the Muslim world, the most Muslims in the world are between South Asia and Southeast Asia. That's the most dense population of human beings and also the most dense population of Muslims in the world. When a woman gets divorced, typically in that region, the husband calls the lady's father and says, hey, come take your daughter, I'm done. Allah says, لا تخرجوهن تلك حدود الله. Those are limits set by Allah. And no, but I'm done with her. I said, come take your daughter. Or the woman says, I'm not going to put up with this, I'm out. Allah says, لا يخرجنا, and they shouldn't leave. Allah says to the women, they shouldn't leave. When I say we have to have a genuine relationship with the book of Allah, We have to have loyalty to the book of Allah, because Ibrahim alayhi salam showed loyalty to Allah. What I'm saying is our loyalty to Allah is our loyalty to the book of Allah. How are you going to be loyal to this book? You don't even know what it talks about. How are you going to do that? And there's no excuse. It doesn't matter if you weren't raised learning it. It doesn't matter that you just never didn't have a chance. It doesn't matter if you're a surgeon or you're in medical school, you're a cab driver, you're running an Uber, you're running a restaurant, you're busy, you're busy, you're busy. Ain't nobody too busy to nourish themselves with water. I'm too busy, I didn't drink for 3 days. Nobody was too busy for that, because it's nourishment. Your body needs nourishment. You never say you're too busy. Your ruh, your qalb needs nourishment. How can you say you're too busy? How can I say I'm too busy? Ramadan is a time to remind ourselves that the body can wait. It can wait. It's time to reconnect with the word of Allah. Reconnect. So yes, ta'abbudan, we're going to recite the Quran. But man, can you restore the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam and the original purpose of Ramadan, and not have an artificial relationship, and let that begin even from now and take it into hyperdrive during Ramadan? Every one of you should have a goal that you're going to read the Quran mindfully. I don't care which translation. I'm not going to do a QA with which translation should you read. The worst translation on the planet, I don't care. Read the Quran. Ask questions about the Quran. What does Allah mean here? What's He talking about here? I don't get this. I don't get this. Have a whole notebook about your conversation with God. And what is He saying? I want to know more about what He's saying. People hear press release. People hear election news. And then they want to hear somebody explain, what does that mean? What does that mean for the economy? What does that mean for interest rates? What does that mean for house prices? What does that mean for this? They want to get the full scope. Here, God Himself is speaking, and you're like, there's no desperation. What does that mean? I want to know what this means. I need to understand this better. Develop that thirst. Develop that thirst. I want to redevelop that thirst for myself this Ramadan. I want you to have that thirst this Ramadan. Yes, it's a month of fasting. Yes, it's a month of ibadah. Yes, it's a month of tahajjud. Yes, it's a month of dua. But all of that stuff is actually there to reinforce the core, the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is, this book came as a guidance in this month, so seek guidance in this book all over again. Every year, renew your connection to Allah. Renew your connection to the Quran. That's what it was supposed to be. That was the objective. So let's put everything else as secondary and this as primary. I'm not saying you have to complete the entire Quran in Ramadan and understand everything. But even if you tell yourself, this year, this Ramadan, Baqarah. This Ramadan, Baqarah. And even if you got through 20 ayat of Al-Baqarah in all of Ramadan, no problem. I got until next Ramadan to finish. Take your time. Take your time with Baqarah. Take a whole year, no problem. This time well spent. Time spent with the word of Allah is time well spent. And then next year, take on Surah Al-Imran. And then the year after that, let's get started with An-Nisa. Why follow this order? Because this is Allah's order. This is Allah's design. There's a curricular design. So let Him coach you through the whole thing. Let Him coach you through His guidance. Let Him coach you through His speech. So this is just the message that I wanted to share with you and put things in perspective. And with this background in mind, I tell you, I can promise you, if you spend the next couple of weeks even just reading Surah Al-Baqarah, with some of the background pointers that I shared with you, you'll see things I didn't even mention. You'll notice things that I didn't talk about. And they'll pop out at you. And they'll give you insight and appreciation into what Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make this month a month in which we are reconnected to His words like we've never been before in our entire lives. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make this a month that He turns our hearts and our minds towards Him in sincerity and clarifies our understanding of this deen and gives us the courage to stand up against our own selves, stand up against our cultural practices, stand up against anything that is not loyal to the word of Allah. May Allah make us truly loyal to His word, like He told the Israelites, "Awfu bi'ahdi, ufi bi'ahdikum." Fulfill the promise I'm taking from you. I'll make my promise to you complete too. Do your part, I'll do my part. That's what Allah told the Israelites. It's through them Allah is telling us that. So may Allah Azza wa Jalla make us of those who fulfill our part of the agreement, and Allah fulfills His promise and gives us the victory that we so badly want.